It's a really bad place for that light. Someone let me know when I'm out of time. My husband hates change. My husband really hates change. He wants everything to stay the same. He wants it to stay the same, and he doesn't want to talk about it. Let me give you an example. The day he proposed to me, he said, "Leslie, I love you. Will you marry me?" And he figures in his head, he told me that once, that he loves me, and if that changes, he'll let me know. If I don't hear anything, I can figure I'm good. Now, I told you that story so you would understand this story. Last February, he came home from work one day. He'd been dealing with junior high school students all day. He walked in and I said, "Hey, honey, I'd like to donate one of my organs to a man I've never met." And he looked at me like this. And he asked me the question that I got asked more times than I have been asked any other question in my entire life. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you, like I told him. On my driver's license when I was 16, and there's a little box to check, "Do you want to be an organ donor?" And I said, "Yes, I would love to be an organ donor. But I don't drive fast, I don't drive drunk, I don't do drugs. What are the chances I'm going to die young enough that my organs will still be viable? So if I'm going to do some good in the world, I need to donate an organ now, while my organs are young and healthy." So after he got done looking at me like this, and he said, "I don't think it's a good idea." And I said, "I already made an appointment, I got to talk to him next week." And I went in to talk to him, and the very first appointment, the first thing they do is take your blood pressure. Kidney donors, I'm a living kidney donor, have to be in phenomenal good health. I was tested for everything in the world. My blood pressure is good, my cholesterol is good, I don't have AIDS, I was tested on 3 separate occasions. Kidney function is good, liver function is good, no health problems whatsoever. I was tested for every kind of cancer you could possibly imagine. I have no superpowers either, unfortunately. I'm sure they tested for those as well. I discovered that phlebotomists are real ghouls. If you walk into a phlebotomist, they will take as much blood as they want. They don't even care. There was one day I bled into 10 vials. You know that kind of woozy feeling you get when you donate blood? And that's how it felt. But when you donate blood, they give you juice and cookies. When you're giving blood for blood tests, nothing. They give you nothing. Another time, is there a delicate way to put this? Perhaps not. You have to do a 24-hour urine catch. Test for kidney function, test for creatinine levels in your urine, and you basically catch all of your urine for 24 hours and you keep it in the refrigerator. Charming, isn't it? Big orange jug has a biohazard symbol right on it. I screwed it tight, really, really tight, and I put it in a Ziploc bag, because what if it leaks? And then I put it in another Ziploc bag, for the same reason. I put it in the very bottom drawer, and I put a sign on the drawer, because I have kids at home, and I said, "Do not look in this drawer, you do not want to know." And my son Kevin came home. She was laughing because she knows Kevin. Came home and he said, "Why is there a jug with a biohazard symbol on it in the fridge?" And I said, "Son, you don't want to know." He said, "No, Mom, I really want to know." Believe me, you really don't want to know. But he really wanted to know, and I said, "If you were that desperate to know, you can go read the very detailed instructions on the jug about the proper way to catch urine for 24 hours and save it in the refrigerator." So he walked away, and 5 minutes later he came back. He was a little pale, kind of greenish around the ears, and he said, "You were right, I didn't want to know." I told you. You cannot say I didn't warn him. One of the times I went down to have blood drawn, I think I spent half of 3 months, the better part of half of that time, up at IMC being tested for every disease and superpower in the world. One time they handed me a piece of paper and said, "Take this down to the lab," and I looked at it and it had my recipient's name on the paper. And I was an anonymous donor, I had no plans to meet him, but like anybody else, I Googled him. I wanted to know. He has no social presence, he's not on Facebook, he's not on any other social sites, but I did find his business website, and I found his picture. So I know what he does for a living, and I know what he looks like. Well, June 21st, I went in for the surgery to donate a kidney, and as I was walking in, I saw a man sitting, I looked through the glasses, I was walking into the surgical center, and I saw a man sitting there looking very nervous, like this, and not moving, and I said, "I think that's him. I think that's him." So it's 5 o'clock, 5:10. I was supposed to be there at 5, I was a little bit late. The poor man, he couldn't start until I was there. They couldn't start processing any of his paperwork. He must have been panic-stricken that I was going to chicken out, because he's never met me. What does he know? He's been on dialysis for probably 15 years. And if you know what dialysis is like, you're tied to a machine for several hours a day, several days a week. And that's the only way you stay alive. And if there are people who have been tied to a dialysis machine for long enough that they just quit. They say, "I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore." They don't go back, and it usually takes them about 2.5 weeks to die. So we've been doing this for a long time. This is a miserable process, and I'm 10 minutes late, and he was stock still. I don't think he was breathing. I'm pretty sure he had completely frozen, waiting for me to show up, and I walked up to him and I said, "Are you Wade?" And he looks at me like, "Who's this crazy lady talking to me at 5 o'clock in the morning in the hospital waiting room?" Until I said, "I'm your donor." And his whole demeanor changed. He was a whole new person. He stood up, he shook my hand, his wife gave me a hug and cried. It was one of those moments, it was one of those Kodak moments, like you see in the Christmas time Coke commercials, you know, where you always cry in those. This was the real difference. And she said to me, "You have given me back my best friend." And I thought, that's what this is about. That's why I'm doing this. I am doing this to give someone back their best friend. So I went in for surgery. Kidney's taken out. They call it a hand-assisted laparoscopy. They do it through, I have 2 little tiny incisions like this and 1 little bigger incision like this. They go in through a laparoscope, tiny little instruments. They disconnect everything. And they don't want to let the metal touch the kidney. They don't want to damage it. If they damage it, taken out, it doesn't do any good. So my surgeon, thank goodness, was the tiniest surgeon on the transplant team. Little tiny hands, reached her hand up through my navel, up through my abdomen, dug through all my intestines, and found my kidney, which is clear back by your ribs back here. And the reason they do it that way, they used to go through the back, but they have to take out a rib. So that's a much bigger surgery to go through the back to do it. That's why they go up that way. And she pulled it out, and the nurse who was in my surgery was a friend of my recipient. And his wife gave her very strict instructions. Do not drop the kidney. And she didn't. It worked well. She walked next door, and they sewed me back up. They didn't sew me back up. They super glued me back together. They do a plastic surgeon's close. It's phenomenal. I am less than 6 months out of surgery. You can't see my scar. It's gone. It's not there. It's amazing what they do with these things. Now, the recipient, Medicare pays for his. They stapled him closed. I'm sure he's got a massive scar on his. They attached to the femoral artery, so his kidney is now here. As I was coming out of surgery, I opened my eyes. I come out of anesthesia very easily. I opened my eyes and I said, "How's his kidney? How's the recipient?" And they said, "His kidney started working for him. It was making urine before we closed his incision." Yes. Because what if I'd gone through all of that and it didn't work? That would have been awful. Well, it worked for him. They tell you, everyone that I talked to told me the same thing. The second day is the worst. And you don't believe them, and you don't really know what that means until you get there. They're not kidding. I was on a morphine drip. I was on a patient-controlled morphine drip, where when you hurt, you push the button, you get a little dose of morphine. I can push the button and have it do anything every 15 minutes. I literally watch the clock. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And right at this time, my neighbor came to visit me. Bless his heart, love him to death, saw me at my absolute worst. I wanted to kill him. I didn't, I refrained. All at the same time, the respiratory therapist came in and said, "Blow into this as hard as you can." Are you kidding me? So I did, and it literally, breathing literally made me cry. It's that bad. It doesn't last for 3 hours and it goes away. Actually, by the time I got home, I felt pretty good. A month later, I felt fantastic. Now I'm completely back to normal. But this is a huge project. This is a big service project. This is something I can do. This may be something you can do. If you can, I encourage you to do it. But if you can't, that's okay. Not everyone can, not everyone wants to. That's okay. But what can you do? There's something you can do. You can check the little yes box on your driver's license that you want to be an organ donor. There's no major religion in the world that is against organ donation. In fact, most of them are for organ donation. For my particular religion, I looked it up on the religious website, looked it up specifically, and got the counsel from the leaders of my church. No major religion in the world is against it. But maybe even that, it's not something you can do. Maybe you won't die in a motorcycle accident. Maybe you'll die of a heart attack and your organs are no good to anybody. Maybe instead, you can call an old friend. Maybe you can hug your spouse. Maybe you can speak for a neighbor at a TEDx event. There's something you can do. Maybe you can donate a wing to a hospital or a building at a university. I don't know. Maybe that's in your realm. Whatever it is that you can do, go do it. Find what you can do and do it tonight.